Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey, and today on the program, we're talking about horror movies. Now, we've already had several horror films hit theaters this year, including M. Night Shyamalan's Knock the Cabin, starring Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groff, and Rupert Grint. In that film, a family is taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that they make a choice in order to avert an apocalypse. So far, the film has done pretty well with audiences and critics alike, scoring a 68% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 65% audience score, earning $14 million on its opening weekend with just a budget of $20 million. Let's see if it outperforms Shyamalan's previous film, Old, which earned $90 million worldwide on just an $18 million budget. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Fear. It's a low-budget horror film about a group of people who gather in the Tahoe Mountains in a lodge in an attempt to escape a worldwide pandemic. At the time of this taping, the film sits at 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, earning less than $2 million at the box office. But for a movie like this, that might not be an issue, depending on the budget, which has not yet been disclosed. One of the reasons films like this keep getting made is because they're relatively low risk. They can be made independently on low budgets and still turn a profit. You don't need big stars, or as 645 director Craig Singer said to me, these movies aren't star dependent, they're scare dependent. So have you seen Fear? What did you think of it? Did it live up to its name? Let me know. Also released this year is Missing. In this film, a young woman's mother goes missing, and she must now try to find her using tools available to her on the internet. They're calling this one a standalone sequel to Searching, which involved a man played by John Cho looking for his daughter. Now, these films are largely on a computer screen. They're probably more thriller than horror. Searching had a budget of under $1 million, and it made over $75 million worldwide, so it makes perfect sense that we're going to get more of these. Both films also did extremely well with critics certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Out of Australia, we have Run, Rabbit, Run. This stars Sarah Snook of Succession fame. She stars as a fertility doctor who notices that her young daughter is behaving strangely, and now she must challenge her own values and confront a ghost from her past. Now, this one was kind of underground. It came out in late January to not much fanfare. It certainly seems like an interesting premise. It hasn't done well with critics. It only scored 36% on the tomato meter. The consensus being it's kind of short on scares, strong performances, but it's got way too many horror cliches. Now, my suggestion would be to watch Succession, because Snook is great on that show, and billionaires with media empires are still pretty scary. All right, coming up on April 21st, we've got the next installment of the Evil Dead franchise. We first reported on this back in January. It's called Evil Dead Rise. It's directed by Lee Cronin and is written by Cronin and Sam Raimi. This one promises to take the action out of the woods and into the city. Here's what IMDb has for the synopsis. A twisted tale of two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle of survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family. All right, we got blood and violence and demons. It's an Evil Dead movie. Are you guys excited for this one? Who are my Evil Deaders out there? Evil Deadheads? I don't know what you call yourselves. Are you going to watch this one, or maybe just stay home and watch your Evil Dead 2 on Blu-ray? All right, so this next one is interesting to me. Set for release on August 11th, it's The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's based on a single chapter of the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. Now, the Demeter is the name of the ship that Dracula takes from Transylvania to London. The novel Dracula is an epistolary, so it's made up of all these different letters and journal entries from all these different characters. So you're essentially getting all these different points of view. It's kind of like a Scorsese movie when you hear all the different voiceovers. Now, this chapter of the book is the captain's log from the Demeter. And according to IMDb, the film will detail the strange events that befell the doomed crew as they attempt to survive the ocean voyage, stalked each night by the terrifying presence of Dracula. So it's a brief scene in the film Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. So to me, it's going to be interesting to see if they can make a whole movie out of this. It stars David Dastmalchian, Liam Cunningham, and Javier Botet, who will play Dracula. He also starred as the Crooked Man in Conjuring 2, which leads me to my next film. Coming up in September, it's The Nun 2. the sequel to The Nun. Now, this is part of the Conjuring cinematic universe. Like its predecessor, this film will also involve a scary nun. The first Nun film made over $365 million on just a $22 million budget. So, of course, we're going to get more of these. I don't know if James Wan really gets enough credit for starting this cinematic universe. Since the original Conjuring back in 2013, a full decade ago, we've had Annabelle, Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, The Nun, The Curse of La Llorona, Annabelle Comes Home, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and now we've got The Nun 2. 8 films in 10 years. That's impressive. And they've all done relatively well. This is basically the horror answer to Marvel without having to spend $150 million on each movie. Not too shabby. The Nun 2 will be in theaters on September 8th. All right, so not to be out-nunned, coming to Netflix later this year, the Spanish language horror Sister Death. Now, there's no release date as of the time of this taping, but the film is set in post-war Spain, where a young novice nun with supernatural powers becomes a teacher at a school that used to be her convent. Strange events and increasingly disturbing situations start happening. Secrets are revealed. There's haunting. It's a horror movie. There's not a lot of info on this yet, but currently IMDb has it listed as being in post-production. It sounds interesting. Let's see if Netflix can deliver. Up next, we've got an update on the upcoming Exorcist film. This fall, on October 13th, we have what they're calling The Exorcist. Perhaps we'll get some subtitle later. So far, we know that it will be a sequel to the 1973 film. It'll star Ellen Burstyn, who will reprise her role as Chris McNeil. It also stars Leslie Odom Jr. and Ann Dowd. The original Exorcist is a classic, and it's one of the seminal films of the genre. It stars Ellen Burstyn, who plays a woman whose daughter is possessed by a demon, so she enlists the help of 2 priests, played by Jason Miller and Max von Sydow. The daughter is played by the amazing Linda Blair. It's one of those films that scared the bejesus out of people when they first saw it. People were literally running out of the theaters in 1973. It's grounded in some wonderful performances. Burstyn is magnificent. She's an amazing actor. Now, I don't know how well that movie would hold up for a modern audience. The film uses a lot of practical effects, many of which still hold up in my opinion, but I don't know how a young person would react to that film, given how much farther horror movies have gone, especially with effects. Other than the fact that a good IP never dies in Hollywood, I really don't know why this movie is getting made. I suspect it has something to do with how well the Halloween reboot did. It's refreshing that Ellen Burstyn is coming back and the cast looks really strong. Maybe this is the reboot that The Exorcist needs. All right, so let me know what you think of these films. What are you excited to see this year? Have you seen any of these so far? Leave me a comment if you're watching this online, or you can tweet at us at BTR Productions.